Welcome to the WetForm desktop and Android feature tour. To start with, what is WetForm? WetForm is a wetland delineation software that's designed to be used on either the desktop or on a mobile Android device. There are Windows devices that are mobile and field-worthy, and WetForm runs on them just fine. Why Android and not Apple iOS? Android was chosen because the mobile devices are typically just as good, cheaper, and the most critical difference is that almost all of them allow the use of an external SD card. Only the new Google Nexus devices do not. The Apple iOS devices do not allow the external SD card. This is important to allow data backup to the SD card. If the device is destroyed or damaged, the data can still be recovered by removing the SD card. Neither the desktop nor the Android mobile version of WetForm require network access to fully function. So what we're about to do is do a tour of both the desktop features and in parallel with that the Android mobile features, and at the end I'll show you how the data are transferred from the mobile device to the desktop device. So on our left we have the WetForm desktop version, and on the right we have the WetForm mobile version on Android. Now note that all the features that you'll have available on the desktop will be available on the mobile device. So let's first do a quick tour of the desktop, and we see that the form layout is virtually identical to what the Corps of Engineers forms look like. So what I call page 1 is the project information and the hydrology information, and I'll be using the Atlantic Gulf Coast region as an example, but all of the regions work approximately the same. Of course, the different regions have different factors in the hydrology and soils sections. So page 1 is the project and hydrology. Page 2 will be all of the vegetation data entry and all the automatic calculations of dominance and prevalence, and the automatic calculation of certain factors like dominance and prevalence. And then we also have rapid test and problematic hydrophytic vegetation. Page 3 will be the soils horizon data as well as the soil indicators. Page 4 allows you to input photos and 2 primary photos. Page 5 allows you to add 4 extra photos. Page 5 will let you put in map information, which is usually typically easily exported from your GIS application. The Print Sort tab will allow you to sort the data in the database and also print it. And when you print it, it'll allow you to filter out, so you can have different projects that you print out, or you can print out everything all at once. And you can also print out the data with no photos, with photos and map, with the extra photos, and with the photos, extra photos, and map. And this little box here allows you to go to the printer selection, and what you'll almost always want to do is pick the Adobe PDF alternative. And then you just come back. Then there's the Data Tools tab. This will let you look at the species file in total and allow you to edit it. So you'll be able to look at this and edit it. Now if you look at this list, you'll see that over on the left sometimes you have something with the syn suffix. What that means is that this list, unlike lists on any other wetland delineation software, allows you to see the synonym, and then when you pick it, it'll fill in the currently accepted name as well as the indicator status. So we'll look at that a little bit more in a moment. So it'll also let you export the species list and then import the species list. From time to time, the Corps of Engineers updates the species list. I will send you that updated list, and then you can import it. You can also import or export desktop data. So if you have multiple people out in the field collecting data, they can export it at their location, send it into the office, and then it can be imported and either appended or used to overwrite the data. You can actually export the species list of everything that has been included in all of your data. So just those species that you found in all your data collection can be exported to produce a unique listing of all those species. And then here's where you import export the Android data. We have a button here that'll let you clear out all the records, delete all the records, and there's multiple warnings as well as an automatic backup. So even if you totally blow it, there's a backup data set that's produced. And then finally there's this indicator update button. What I found is that the Corps of Engineers in the past has sent out species lists in the middle of the field season. What this will let you do is after you import the species list, you can click this button and it'll go through all of your data and update everything based on the new indicator status found on the new species list. And then finally there's the license button. So let's go back to page 1. What I have in here is a set of data, dummy data that I've already produced, and what I'm going to do is first sort it. So I'm going to sort it on project and then plot ID. So I'm going to apply that. And then I'm going to come back and we see that we've got project A and sample 01U. Now typically samples are collected in pairs, an upland pair along with a wetland pair. So that's why I've got this 01OU. And if I go to the next sample, you'll see it's 01W. So it's the same project, but it's a wetland pair. Now you can see that you can fill in the project data. You can check the indicator features if you want, and this middle section is all automatically calculated. So right now you can see that it says yes, it's got wetland vegetation, soils, and hydrology. Let's go back to the previous sample that was in an upland, and you see that everything is unchecked for those features. Now what you can see here is that you can have multiple projects and multiple samples. So if I click this Go To button, I can pick a project and then it'll filter out all of the samples associated with that project, and then I can move directly to that one particular sample. Okay, so let's say I want to go to project B and I want to go to sample 3 upland, and that's where I'll be located. So let's go back to project A, the upland sample, and let's say we want to add a new sample in this particular project. So right now we've got sample 1 and sample 2. What I can do is clone this record. So I can just add a record, which would be a blank. I can clone the record, which will repeat all of this project information, but not all of the vegetation, soils, and hydrology data. Or I can duplicate a record, which would duplicate all of the soils and hydrology data, which you typically would not want to do. So to start with, let's clone a record. And let's call this 03 upland. And we can see that we've got all our project data repeated, but different things like the landform. So if this is an upland, it might be on a bench. The local relief might be convex. And then when you feed in the slope, typically clinometers will be measured in degrees, but percent is what makes more sense. So let's say we put in 4 degrees. Just by clicking away, it'll automatically fill in the percents. So we can fill in our subregions, which are included in a drop-down box, and then we can go through and add all of our different data. So this is an upland, but we can go ahead and show what vegetation data would be like. So we can come down to the herb stratum and say we've got some grasses. So you can see you feed in a few letters and it will automatically often have the correct species. You feed in your cover data, and as soon as you click away, it automatically calculates dominance. So this is a dominant species, and it calculates the dominance and prevalence values. So let's add another species, and we'll say it's some sort of aster. And you can see right here that we have both the synonyms and the accepted names. So say I remember Aster acuminatus. When I click this, it'll fill in the currently accepted scientific name, and then I can feed in a cover value. And see, once again, based on dominance, the 50-20 rule, you can see that it has calculated that this is still a dominant. And when we go back to page 1, we'll see that the vegetation is still in the no category. Just as a demonstration, let's feed in a carex. And when you look at this list, you can actually scroll across and see what its indicator status is. So let's pick something that's an obligate, and just to jam the data, let's make it a dominant, and we can see that we now have a prevalence index that we've satisfied. And when we come back here, this will still be no. But remember that a prevalence index will depend on other things like soils and hydrology. So let's just say we've got two secondary hydrology indicators. Let's go to the soils, and before I fill in any of the horizon data, let's just, for the heck of it, pick this problematic soils. Now we've got problematic soils have been picked, and we've got some secondary, we've got the prevalence satisfied and secondary indicators. And when those, it's a complicated calculation, but WetForm knows that when you have that combination of factors, that it triggers everything into the yes category. So now let's see what happens if we start a new project. So let's add a record. And let's start a new project. Now note that in many of these boxes, anything that was entered previously can be found again. So you don't have to keep re-entering all of these things. So let's say this is a coal mine. So the next time I start a new record, coal mine will be in the drop-down boxes. And see, I already have my name in here. And then we can enter all of this other project data and enter all of our hydrology. And just as a demonstration of how the soils horizon works, let's just enter a soil horizon. So you see we've got a drop-down list. And what's good about that drop-down list, it automatically knows what the last horizon was, and it'll continuously add to that. And let's say you start adding certain color features. Pick one. You can pick your percentages. And let's say you've got some sort of models of some sort. And let's say you end up with more than just one set of models. What you can do is go plus models, and you can add your multiple model colors along this line. And then when you're done with your models, you can add your next soil horizon. So you'll see that in both the soils and the hydrology, you have all your factors listed, and you'll see these yellow highlighted areas and these orange question marks. They are to help you figure out what these are. So if you look at the orange, organic bodies, you see that it refers to LRR, PT, and U. If you click that, this will help you see where those particular regions are. I can close that down. So that gives you kind of map information about each of these factors. The orange question mark will actually take you, and we'll go over here to like something like depleted matrix. You click that, and that will take you to the actual page in the manual with the pictures that describe what a depleted matrix is. Let's close that down. So those are very handy features. So we've got automatically calculated prevalence and dominance. Also, whenever you enter your species information, it will automatically calculate the hydrology fact neutral. So let's go to one of those wetland factors. So we'll go to 1W. Click OK. And you'll see that the fact neutral was automatically calculated, and it's based on the vegetation data. So there's a lot of automation in the software. And you can see that you can actually include the photos. And that's simply by clicking this orange box. It will navigate you to your Windows folders, and then you can find the photo you want to attach. And just click on it, and it'll fill it in. Same with extra photos. And I'll just sort of demonstrate that here. Okay, so now let's go to the Print Sort tab. So let's look at just Project A, and let's print report with photos. We've already selected the Adobe printer, so let's print report with photos. I think I've got a flashing window here. It'll ask you what the file name is and where you want to put it, and I'm just going to put it in my WetForm folder. And typically it'll run. And after it's done running, with Adobe Acrobat at least, it typically will pop up. So let's take a look at it. So this is the filled in form, and we have our attached photos. Filled in form and our attached photos. And on this one we had no photos. So you can see it very quickly will produce your output for you. And then data tools. Now typically you may have multiple projects and you want to back those data up and maybe put them on an archive folder somewhere. You can export selected records, or you can export your entire database. And with each one, it puts in a date stamp, okay, and today's date. And the date stamp will look like year, year, month, month, day, day. So let's export all records. So it's letting you know where it's going to go with this file. So that was successfully created. And if you ever need to, you can always bring those data back in. Now, if you wanted to produce a separate species list of all the species that you've entered in all your data, you can click that, and that will produce that output. If you want to export your data to an Android device, here's how you would do that. It produces comma delimited files. 4 comma delimited files will be produced and put on your WetForm folder. You just copy that over to your device, and then you can import it. And then here's how you delete all records. And just as an example, let's go ahead and delete all records. See how it will make a backup regardless of what you do. And right now we have 1 of 1 record. So we've deleted all our records. Let's try to get those data back. We're going to overwrite our data. And we're going to find the data with today's date on it, which happens to be the 23rd. So we pick that. We go OK, and we've got our records right back here in our database. So we're good to go again. Let's see. I think that's it for the desktop. Now what I have over here on the right is what the screen looks like on a tablet. And I've already imported the data that was exported from here over to the Android device, so you can kind of see how it works. We have down here on the left and right, we have these pop-up menus, and we have project. That'll let you add a record, clone a record, or delete all records, just like on the desktop. GPS, this will let you go to the built-in GPS and then put in the latitude and longitude values. This will let you kind of put photo comments. This will import the comma delimited from your internal memory or the external SD card. Like I mentioned, the external SD card is important to have, or you can export your data. So to start with, let's export to internal memory. And this tells you what the file names are and where they've been sent. But note that we can also export to the external SD, which I highly recommend you do on a regular basis, so that if you drop your device and smash the screen or roll over it with a vehicle, you'll probably still be able to pull out the SD card and recover all your data. So this tells you where it's been sent and what the 4 files look like. So just to start with, let's go through some of these options. So that's the project menu. For veg, you do it stratum by stratum: tree, sapling, shrub, herb, vine. This will let you edit your species list. This will let you export your species list, and this will let you import a new species list. So just to test that, let's go to the herb stratum. You can see that we already have data in here. And we'll put in a carex, do a search. There's a lot of carices. And once again, you can have synonyms as well as accepted names. So let's pick this one. We'll select it. Feed in a value. We'll put in a really high value. And it's a little bit hard to see on these screens, but when it becomes a dominant, the background is yellowed. So you can see that the carex is a dominant and the festuca is a dominant, and the poa is no longer a dominant. So let's get rid of this bottom screen so that we can scroll down, and you can see that we have all the calculations of dominance and prevalence. And at this point, we still don't have a dominance calculated. Just as a test, let's feed this number up to the point where it becomes the only dominant. Let's knock this down. So that now our fact W is the only dominant. And we'll see that we have prevalence and dominance and rapid test. So all of our dominants, are fact or wetter. So let's go back. Let's close this down. So you can see how you get to your different strata with the veg. On hydrology, we can get into all of these factors and check them. And say you've got a factor that you're not really certain about. We'll say this iron deposit B5. You do have access to the manual. So we'll go to B5, and that'll give us our explanation of exactly what's going on with that factor. So let's back out of that, and let's go to the soils. For the soils, we have either the horizon screens or the checkbox screens. And the horizon screens, just like on the desktop, allow you to pick a certain horizon, and then when you come down to the next one, it'll automatically have that second horizon figured out. You have to start at the top. I forgot. Let me get back up there. So let's start at the top. Say we'll go 0 to 6. The next one will know that we got to start at 6 or greater, 6 to 10. And the next one will know that it's going to be 10 or greater. So that is still fairly automated. And you've got lots of automated options on these drop-down boxes as well. Let's get rid of the keyboard. And let's go back. And let's go to the soil checkboxes. Once again, you have quick access to the checkboxes, and then if you want to find out more about these particular factors, they're kind of grouped: the A factors, the S factors. Let's go down to an S factor. Let's say this S4, sandy glade matrix. Let's see if we can find out more about that. And that will take us directly to that feature, including pictures. So now we're back on the main screen. The ultimate determination screen will tell you what has and has not been checked, and you can add remarks here. View will let you navigate to the first, last, next, previous, or go to. Will let you find all the records and let you navigate to one particular record. Set path. This allows you to set the actual path on the internal memory. For most modern devices, the path to the SD card is a fixed path. So that's where you would find that. And you can set this. I just produce a folder called AAA All Data. And then when you set that as an internal path, since this is Atlantic Gulf Coast, it'll produce a subfolder called WetForm AGC, and then a subfolder under that called Data. And that's where you'll find your data on the internal memory. And I'll navigate to some of that here in a moment. Let's see, help. There's a lot of general help. This gets you straight to the manual. This tells you how to work the GPS. And then ultimately, if your data get hung up somehow, and occasionally that can happen, you can export everything and send that to me. And then I can do all the repairs that are necessary. Hopefully there's very few or none, but I always like to have that emergency exit. And then ultimately you can exit WetForm. Let's go to the main screen, and I'm going to show you how to navigate to the data. So right now, let's make this more basic. Right now I'm on the all data folder. Let's see, how do I go up? And let me add folders. So you can see the SD card means the internal memory card, and then we have the external SD card. First, let's find out where the data are on the internal memory. So I told you I have that AA All Data. I go to WetForm Atlantic Gulf Coast, and I go to this data folder, and you'll see that I've got data here, and those are the folders and files that you'll need to export. So let me export something fresh right now. So I'm going to go to Project, Export CSV to Internal Memory. And then I'm also going to export to the external SD. So we'll have those items that have the current date stamp. And today is January 23rd. So I'm going to go back to my file navigator. And you can see that we've got all these data with the 23rd marked on them. So these are the data that you would copy to your desktop. And usually you can do that via a cable, and it can also be done wirelessly. And what I can do is show you how that's done. I'm going to open up my Windows folder. You can see I've got the Samsung device here, my tablet, all data, and then data. And I think I have to disconnect and reconnect for this thing to refresh. One of those idiosyncrasies. And I'll come back here, tablet, all data, Atlantic Gulf Coast, data, and let's look at this a little bit better, and we'll sort it by date. And you'll see that I've got the 4 folders that I just created are right here. What I would do is copy those and send those over to my computer on the WetForm folder. And then they'd be available to import here on the desktop. So I can go to, let's go ahead and overwrite. Click OK. And you'll see here's the data. Here's the data from the device that was just produced. And I can import that. So that's basically how you transfer the data from your device back to your computer and then re-import it. So let me get back to WetForm. And I think that about covers the basic features. We can just go here to the title page. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me or go to the website. It's just by going wetform.com, you'll be able to get to the website. The company name is Ecotone. You can see that right down here. Here's our address and then the phone number. We're located in Boulder, Colorado. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your time and attention.